Watch a movie, get inspired, give back, help a charity. It's time for a movie karma watch party. Hi, everybody. I'm Jared Milrad, and welcome to another Movie Karma watch party and conversation. This is a series that we're doing to recognize folks who are achieving at high levels in the industry and who are fostering a sense of diversity, inclusion, and social impact through their art and through their work. Today, I'm really excited to have a special guest, Johnny Derango, who has done some incredible work as a cinematographer. Has a new film called Fatman coming out with Mel Gibson. I'm really excited to talk about. So Johnny, welcome to the conversation today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So to start off, Johnny, we want to get a sense of your background. You know, this is something we really believe in, is just helping inspire younger artists, cinematographers, screenwriters, filmmakers. So could you just share a little bit for our audience in terms of how you got into cinematography, and if there was an artist or a piece of art that really inspired you?
Sure. Yeah, I have kind of a unique path because growing up, I was just in love with cinema, the experience of going to the movies, and it would happen not that often. It was always around the holidays when family would come visit and my parents would take me to see a movie around Thanksgiving or Christmas. And just, there was something magical about it, And for me, cinema is incredible because it's an escape. I grew up in a tiny town of like 10,000 people in the middle of nowhere, Illinois. And it was my way to see other parts of the world, to see how other people live, just to step out of my daily life and escape. And so I really always appreciated that. And growing up in a town of 10,000 people in the middle of Illinois, I never thought of filmmaking as something that I could do. So I thought that I had to pick a career that was more, by the numbers or whatever. And I always really enjoyed action movies and like police procedurals, like Homicide: Life on the Street was my favorite TV show. So I was like, oh, I must want to be an FBI agent or a US Marshal or something like that. So when I was trying to decide on a career, that's what I thought I was going to do. I thought I was going to go into law enforcement. And as I began to talk to my parents about it, they're like, is there anything else that you like? Is there anything else that you're interested in? Because they feared for my safety, and God bless them for that, because it opened a door where I was like, well, filmmaking would be really interesting. Now, I think if I'd spent my entire life going, I want to be a filmmaker, mom and dad, I want to be a filmmaker, they'd be like, maybe you should get a real job. Right. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go into law enforcement. They're like, maybe there's something else you enjoy. And so I started to look into filmmaking, and I thought I wanted to be a director. So I enrolled in a community college to get some of my gen eds out of the way. And then the following year, I went to Columbia College in Chicago. And I was going to enroll in all directing classes because I thought that's what I wanted to do. I had seen not long before The Usual Suspects. And that movie really inspired me because I was like, the way that a filmmaker can completely manipulate an audience and control your mind and have you thinking one thing, and then at the end, it's like completely different. I realized the power that cinema had. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I think I want to direct. And then I got to film school. And in my very first semester, where I was actually hands-on with a camera, I met a man by the name of Ron Pitts. And Ron Pitts became my mentor. Ron Pitts was just an incredible human being. He was probably in his mid to late 60s when I met him, but he was Chicago's first Black filmmaker. He was there at the 68th Democratic National Convention. He was clubbed, passed off a camera. He was in Selma, Alabama on Bloody Sunday on the bridge. There's an amazing photo of him in the museum there in Selma, Alabama, of a tear gas canister going off, and he's on the bridge with a Bolex. And he was in all these amazing places at these amazing times. And he really taught me, you can have the same impact that a director has in telling a story, but doing it with the visuals. And I just got so excited about the idea of, the power of placing a camera somewhere or lighting something a certain way. And it really changed the way that I looked at movies. I had never looked at movies in a visual sense. It was storytelling to me. And then I realized how many layers there are, from production design to lensing to, costume. It's all these things that just make up a film. And so it just opened my mind to something new. And I was just so inspired by Ron that, I was like, I want to be like that guy. And he sort of took me under his wing, and he's like, I want you to be like me. He's like, you're going to be big time, And so he just sort of inspired me. And so if you ask me, like, I see, where do you draw inspiration from? I always come back to him. He was a guy who, he told me a story when he was a child, his brother on the way to school was beat up by several men, like men. So from that point forward, his mom would walk them to school with a butcher's knife, just
Wow.
swinging it back and forth just to get their kids to school.
Right.
You know, and so that's always stuck with me, you know. And I when you look at diversity and inclusion and stuff, if you truly aspire to do something great and you're willing to put in the time and the effort, you know, you don't always have the same opportunities, but I really truly believe that those people who are driven and talented will get there. And I think Ron was a testament to that.
Yeah, that's really amazing that he was the one who kind of shifted your own perspective and what you could be in your life. Did his story and the types of events, as you said, he was at Selma on all these pivotal civil rights moments. I know the trial of Chicago 7 just came out about the 1968 convention,
Yeah.
or convention. Did that open your mind to also like the ways in which cinema can be used as a force for good in the world and a force for social justice?
100%. But like I said, so my path into cinema was
Right.
because in my own life, you know, when I was going through trials, tribulations, things, you know, I have a father who is like rules with an iron fist. There was not a whole lot of choice in my household.
Okay.
So, and I was a rule follower. So I listened to my dad. So my escape was I would go to the video store and I would find something that played in a festival like Sundance or Slam Dance, something that I would have never been able to see in my little town. And I would rent it. I would go hole up in my bedroom and watch these things. So it was my escape. So I find cinema so powerful because, as you said, you can use it for social change. You can use it for escape. Just for me, in my personal career, I haven't done a whole lot in that social change thing, but I feel like when you're putting out movies representing different groups and different demographics, somebody's going to latch on. It's going to inspire somebody, and it's going to help them escape from whatever they're dealing with. And that's why I love film.
Right. And I mean, I think like you're saying, a story well told can whether or not it's about a specific social issue can have a really positive impact in someone's life.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm curious to hear more about that in terms of the choices you've been able to make in your career and the types of products you've worked on before we get to Fatman, which I'm really interested to hear about. But you've had, I think, about 20 years of being a cinematographer now. Could you give us maybe some highlights of experiences on set, directors you work with, or projects you worked on that were just so fulfilling or so rewarding and meaningful to you?
Yeah, I'll go back to Small Town Crime, which is a film I did a couple movies ago, and it was one where I felt like I get to make a big leap forward as an artist. I got to really craft the images in the way that I had envisioned them, which is not always the case because when you're starting out your career and you're doing lower budget indies and you're doing stuff, a lot of times it's survival, but it's making the most beautiful images you can. When you get a little more time and a little more budget, which it's never enough time and never enough budget, as
Right.
anybody who shoots knows, but you can sort of dig into what you're envisioning in your mind and sort of translate it. And then you can really sort of get into Fatman's an interesting one, and I'll get into that. But you can really get into the headspace of the characters and drive your visuals based on characters, which is not a luxury I've always had. But it started, I think, with Small Town Crime and telling that story through the lensing and through the lighting to really show internally what characters are going through. So that one was a step forward for me and a really enjoyable experience. Not to mention, I think it's a hell of a movie. It's one of my favorite films that I've ever done.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. I saw it in your kind of portfolio. Do you think that it was that type of experience for you for specific reasons? Was it the director? Was it the location? Was it the story? Was it all the above?
So yeah, absolutely all
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
That one was also with the Nelms brothers, who we're about to do our 5th movie together. So we have a great collaboration. That was movie 3 together. And when you work with somebody that closely, you start to get a shorthand and you start to really trust each other and you start to be able to do things that you wouldn't maybe be able to do with a director that you're working with for the first time. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I saw that you've collaborated with the Gnomes Brothers a bunch of times, as you said. Is that something that you would, I don't know if recommend is the word, 'cause it's not always easy to find that collaboration, that synergy intentionally, but
Right.
is that something that you think has really elevated your career and kind of brought your work and your art to a new level?
Without question. I think there's those very special relationships that if you're lucky enough to have one or two in your career, they move things forward. And those guys are two filmmakers that I met. I was shooting building safety videos, and Esham, who's one of the brothers, was gripping for me on them. That's how I met him. So he was getting me coffee and setting up lights for me. And 15 years later, we're shooting big movies together, and he's the director and I'm the DP. And so that's really, it's fun. But there was something I saw in them that I believed in, and they were trying to put together back in 2010 their first larger movie. Which, when I say larger, we're still talking under $500,000, probably close to $250,000. But I went out and raised a good portion of that budget for them because I believed in them. And I'd only done one short film with them, but there was something I saw in them that I hadn't seen in almost any other filmmakers that I worked with. And I was like, I got to help these guys get this movie made because I truly believe in them. And it's just continued every step. Each movie has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and each movie has gotten us the next movie, which has been, it's really rewarding to see how that's worked.
And you also touched on something interesting there too, Johnny, in terms of, I imagine you were kind, and you were giving of your time and your patience when you were working with them when they were not a big deal, so to speak. Like, is that something you've tried to foster in your work where, you may never know, who's going to be going up, who's going to be going down as you move forward?
Yeah. And I absolutely feel that way. And I've always felt that way. And I get into not arguments, but discussions with other filmmakers sometimes. I will still occasionally go out and shoot something for free if I believe in someone. It's not always about the paycheck. It's very rarely for me about the paycheck. It's about working with artists who I believe in. Like, there's another young filmmaker, but there's another filmmaker, not necessarily a young filmmaker, but a filmmaker who I really respect by the name of Kim Noonan. And Kim is doing some really interesting stuff, character work, and it's just a matter of time before, he's on the same level. So it's those kind of relationships that you foster because you genuinely believe in the people.
Hey everybody, I'm Jared Milrad, the founder of Movie Karma. Thanks so much for stopping by our page. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share this channel with your friends and family so we can continue to transform entertainment into action.